welcome to ShopTalk, the podcast built to unlock union strength through collaborative discussion. Our aim is to have a naturally flowing conversation on relevant union issues, events, and topics. For our first series, each episode will be a dialogue with this year's election candidates. We will strive to cover enough topic areas to give voters a sense of who the guests are as individuals and who they will be as union leaders. Thank you for joining. Hello and welcome to Shop Talk. I'm your co-host, Frank Perry.
Hey, it's Robert Bays.
So today we're happy to have a conversation with Sophia Perkins. She is a Local 1000 steward from DLC 787, which covers areas of West Sacramento. Sophia is running for the statewide office of Local 1000 president. She's previously held many different positions throughout the union, including Unit 4 Deber. She's been an SEIU international delegate 4 times, and also the Unit 4 bargaining chair. She's currently a civil servant for the Department of Healthcare Services, has been a member since 2000, and a hardworking steward since 2005. So, welcome to the show, Sophia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight and inviting me to your podcast. I heard, through Robert Bays, it's gaining traction. So thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to the open discussion. I know that you asked when you sent me the invitation, was there a specific topic? And I'm actually open to any discussion, any topic that you feel relevant during this time for the upcoming elections.
Awesome. Well, Great. Thank you for joining us. And we definitely did want to ask, just to make sure that if there was any key topic areas you felt had to be addressed, that we hit them. But we do look forward to a flowing conversation. And to start things off, we kind of want you to dig into your memory banks. We're not talking about Local 1000 specifically, but it could be in the answer. We want you to take a second and think about the first time you heard the word strike. Or picket, it might have been known in another time. And tell us about that.
Well, growing up in Hollister, which is a very small agricultural area in California, I remember that McCormick was on strike. I don't know, everybody knows McCormick, they make the spices, right? And it was in Gilroy, California, with a big warehouse, big plant that employed a lot of local community members. And I remember that I was like 17, I think, and my mom was like, don't cross that line. If anything, you need to go down there and see if they need water on the picket line. So it was more about understanding the power of not crossing that line for the workers, to support them and make sure that that company that had the power to, provide that the wages or, safety. I think some of the things that they were fighting for during that strike was, safety around the heavy machinery back in the day. I'm not going to say when it was, but, back in the day, it was, some of it was just safety, mats to stand on when they were working, at the machinery, as they were processing different spices and stuff for McCormick. So I remember that very well. My mom instilled in me at a very young age that, to be the voice of that underdog, to always make sure that you were standing up for those people that didn't feel like, they had rights or they had a voice to stand up for themselves. So, the strike, that's a big impact. I think that, coming to the state, I wish we had the right to strike. There's a lot of power behind striking.
So growing up, you were instilled that, you saw it in person, you were taught those important values from your mom. Tell us about the journey of starting your career and how are you now a labor activist? How did you become so active in the union?
Actually, before, I came to state service, I made my way through, the California Conservation Corps, just being a Corps member, working a lot of projects throughout the state of California, natural resources. Before that, I went to Bethany Bible College in Scotts Valley. So I think just growing up, my mom's always, instilled in us, to be out there, serving others. I ended up at, state service, and kind of long story, but, really it was for the benefits. And I came during 1999 when, where California was experiencing the rolling brownouts, right, for the energy crisis. I was an emergency hire during a hard hiring freeze. I stayed on, it was a 3-month emergency hire position. I stayed on. I felt like, that would get my foot in the door. They had another opening to close down another program at California Conservation Corps. So I stayed on for that, and, took some classes at City College, so I could go into the accounting field with the state of California. And then I began to take tests and got on permanent. Actually, when I got involved with the union, we were under CSEA, California State Employees Association at the time. Believe it or not, I wasn't too happy with the union at that time. I kind of had to let the union know that I felt like they were selling me out, and I kind of took on my own case. And it was a time away from work itself to be able to go to school, right, and take my accounting classes to better myself. And I knew in our contract that we had upward mobility language. And so I fought for that. And I actually, after, letting the union know that I was going to be taking on the case myself, I actually got hours, and, I actually got a paycheck where I actually lost some wages from my department, California Conservation Corps at that time, just as a account clerk too. I learned early on to stand up, and I learned early on to read our contract, because our contract is only as powerful as we enforce it, right? If we leave it on our desk or leave it at home, and we're not aware of the language that has been, fought for and secured for us as state employees, then it's just another book on our bookshelf. And, I knew that, I wanted to succeed in state service. So, I began to take classes, and, I felt good about winning that first case, right? I pushed back, and, I actually won. I stood up for myself, and I was like, okay, this contract thing is kind of cool, because my first union job is the state of California when I became a state in California employee.
I was actually, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say, yeah, we've covered a lot of ground so far. And I kind of wanted to go back a little bit, because you saw these, the picket or the strike with McCormick. It was instilled in you not to cross picket lines, right? But did that mean that you necessarily wanted to find a union job after that, or you just knew not to cross the line? But did that make you say, hey, I want a union job? Or was it kind of like, hey, avoid union jobs because they need to go on strike, and like other jobs don't?
No, I don't think it was avoid union jobs, but it took me a while to, get a union job, because, like I tell everybody, I feel like I took my retirement up front, because I had a lot of jobs. I traveled a lot when I was younger. And then when I was about 40, I came to the state because, I needed to give somebody 20, 25 years of my life, right? So I could have a decent retirement. No, I was organizing private sector work sites that were labor jobs before I even came to the state. And that was right here in Sacramento. I worked for Mary Ann's Baking Company, which we packaged a lot of baked goods for various, companies like Sara Lee, Winchell's Donuts and stuff like that. Well, I knew, that we had rights just being in the private sector through the labor code, right, and the labor board. Well, it was mostly a lot of Hispanic workers and Asian workers that didn't really know the rights. I noticed that when I first started working there, the labor code wasn't posted in anywhere. There wasn't really necessarily a break room. So I started organizing around, well, how come we're not getting breaks? How come we're not getting lunches? So I actually went and got the poster from the labor board and put it up. And I don't know, about 2-3 weeks after I was employed there, we started having breaks and lunches. So I was organizing before I knew what organizing for a
Wow.
labor movement was all about.
Yeah, I
So
was
when I came to the state, I kind of fit in, right?
right.
Just serving people, standing up for others, saying, hey, we have rights. We need to stand up together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's definitely, you were organizing back then, and we almost just glossed over all of that. And I'd be willing to bet, just based on the examples you've given so far, that you really probably are someone who started organizing even sooner. Whether it's organizing, the playground to play a certain game, or kids in your class to do a certain thing, or it sounds like that's something. Would you relate to that? Do you feel like it's this natural part of your personality to try to bring people together to stand for issues or causes? Or
I would have to say yes. Even at a young age, I remember, how they used to have the muscular dystrophy telethons with Jerry Lewis, right? And I remember organizing little carnivals in my backyard to raise money, right? And I was barely in the 8th grade. And so I was always like organizing or trying to come together. I remember like at 17, I think I just got my driver's license, and there was some pear orchards in my community that, they weren't grade A, and the farmers were just letting them, fall because they couldn't get their profit that they wanted. And so I remember getting about 3 or 4 friends and telling them, we're going to go pick pears today and take them over to the food bank. And so, yeah, I guess it's just in me to organize and help out. And like I said, serve people.
So you talk about continuing to organize, and that's what you've been doing for years with our union, and you've been educating people about the issues. You talked about the main driver for you coming to the union and getting a state job was the benefits and the pension, right?
Right.
So if you could talk about the state of our benefits today, and what's the biggest threat to our members' benefits right now, and the main thing you want to talk about.
So I think the main thing with our benefits are, our pay. Our pay is not keeping up. And I think that has a major impact on our overall bottom line of retirement. We're not getting that cost of living every year. Our contract seems to be falling more and more and more and further behind. There's some of our classifications that are way out of where they should be. If you do a pay parity or pay comparison with the federal government, local governments, local jurisdictions, the state of California, being the 6th largest economy, should be paying its employees a little bit better. So overall, the bottom line, I think, retirement wise, our benefits, our pays being eroded constantly. The biggest thing that I came for was, the retiree healthcare. Before it was 100% taken care of. As you know, and other state employees know, we now have to pay into our retiree healthcare to make sure that it's going to be there. So it's slowly eroding, and to me, it's having that possibility of constant erosion because of the power of our union is diminishing as well. And so, I look at the two, together. It's like, as our union gets weaker, it seems like more and more of our benefits and our contract are eroding slowly too. And it's like, at what point in time do we say enough is enough and take that chance and stand up and say, no more? We as state workers need to say no more.
It's such a big issue. It's kind of a what comes first thing, right? Is it the fact that our membership is declining, like you say, and our kind of our strength is dying off, or is it a leadership problem? And your you're campaigning to be the leader of our union. So how do you address the pay to constantly not keeping up and contracts not, being what people want? How do you attack this issue since, as you say, it's the biggest issue?
Right. I think, well, we have, the one avenue that, civil servants do have, and that's the opportunity to go to the bargaining table and negotiate, a fair contract that we always talk about. But, as far as, membership is a reflection of the leader as a whole. Any organization, when I used to lead crews and supervise for California Conservation Corps and also a nonprofit, I always looked at myself as, my team, my crew is a reflection of who I am, right? And so to me, I look at our membership and it's diminishing. People are getting upset and just, giving up on our union. And, the labor movement has been here for years and years. And it's like, I don't want to give up on the labor movement because I think there's a lot of power in the labor movement, and we need to have the labor movement around to save the middle class. But right now, our union is a true reflection of the leadership that we have had for over the past, I would say 10, 15 years. It will be 15 years. And I think, just looking at people getting frustrated because they're not being heard and our union's not there. I think first and foremost, we need to bolster up our membership, right? Before we even get to bargaining. I think we have time after this election to be able to do that. And I think it's just, sometimes it's showing up, listening to our members, just traveling around campaigning. It's like our members are starving, our members are thirsty, and I say that because the union's not there. They call, with the issue in hopes that somebody's going to return their call. And I want to build and bring back trust and power within the union. And I think we start, with communication. I think, and being inclusive to everyone when we communicate, right? Like I was on a call last night and, I was asked about the communication, and it's like, I think we need to start using work emails and communicating to everybody that's represented by Local 1000, not just membership. And the reason I say let's start using those work emails again is because we open those emails 5 days a week. Some of us, when we get home, we're tired. We don't want to have to take more time away from our family and open a personal email. It might be late at night when we get to our personal email, and then we're skimming through to find out, what we want to see. It's like, you see that union stuff, it's like, oh, I'll get to that later, right? But at work, where everybody's going to open their email 5 days a week, I think we begin communicating with our represented body there and build that trust, right? And build that communication with our membership and with our represented workers throughout the state of California. And then by the time we get to bargaining, then we have the power that we're going to push back.
So I think communication is key, right? I think a lot of people see that in a lot of aspects of life. But in particular, when it comes to the union, how have you seen communication change, and in what ways since you started in 99 or 2000 till now? And it's 20 years. Talk about as much as you can about the communication. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it more? Is it less? Is it different? Like, how has that communication changed in 20 years?
Well, I can't give a true perspective of what's happening now, but let's go back and talk about the journey, right? So when I first got involved, it was like we would get emails almost like every other day at work, at our work emails, right? That we were involved with this community action, or, the union was having this meeting or this workshop at the union hall, sign up, come by, have dinner, bring your family. We used to do, movie nights. There used to be a lot of different events going on. And Local 1000 used to use our work emails, and we were communicated with quite regularly, I would say. And then it kind of started diminishing over, when we stopped using work emails. right? Then when we went to just using personal emails, it was kind of a hit and miss. And I think I
What
want
year
to
are we talking?
say I want to say that started, I want to say 2000, maybe 13, 14. And it was based on, the Freedom Foundation, right? And the contract that Wisconsin, it went from, so many pages to a few pages, right? That's what was being told to us on how come we couldn't use our work emails anymore because it wasn't secure anymore. And it took away a lot of the direct communication or that line of communication that like, hey, my union's around. Now it's a hit and miss because I know personally, we went through a lot of IT people at Local 1000. So that means you have a lot of different people building and, trying to tweak and stuff with databases, right? So, right now, especially I would say over the last 3 years, that's why I can't really give a good perspective base because once you start standing up, you kind of get less and less information. So right now, the information that I get is through other people. I don't really get any of these purple texts that are going out or this purple text party that's happening for political stuff. I'm not getting those communications, right? So I think, like I alluded to earlier, I think by using the work emails, where people are able to open that 5 days a week, I think, that's the start, is building our communication back up. It's so important.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It is interesting to see the communication change. It sounded like more than just the communication changed. It sounded kind of like you were alluding to the nature of the relationship between the union hall and the members changing as well. Because I don't know how frequent there are movie nights and invite the family through and, mingle with other union people anymore. So it sounds like maybe you're saying that there's the dynamic or the relationship dynamics changed between the union hall and the people.
I think overall, I would say yes. I think the dynamics, and I've been back to work now about 3 years. Before that, I was out on union leave, being the Unit 4 bargaining chair. And, during that time, and I would say we can't even count this last year because we all understand it's different because of, C-19, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, before the pandemic, right? There wasn't a lot of like open hospitality like a union hall should be, where it's more inviting. It was more like inclusive invitations, right? If you weren't part of the crew, then you probably weren't going to be invited to one of the meetings, whether it had to do with your community or not. And to me, a union hall, it should be open. It should be like a family. It should be a place to come and kick your feet up if you need to, right? Or come and vent and know that somebody's there to give you a hug at the end of a bad day if that's what you need, right? Or to celebrate with you, or if something great happened on the job, or or even in your personal life. Our union hall should be open, and it's not. And yes, the dynamics has changed. And I would say over the last 6 years, that's when I've noticed it started to change.
So you were the Unit 4 bargaining chair, right? Can you give us maybe you can give us a glimpse on the bargaining process, and because as president, ultimately our negotiation are kind of led by the president, right? So what do you want to see changed with the way we approach things at the bargaining table?
First of all, I would like to see it being an open process, closed doors. I think the members as a whole would be very disappointed to really know what goes on at bargaining. And I say that because I was a Unit 4 bargaining chair 2 terms, right? About 7.5, 8 years. I was disappointed my first term, because I was just in disbelief at what happens, right? And it's like, we always hear about these, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, all these contract negotiations and stuff going on. And, I know that like a lot of us sign non-disclosure acts. So I don't know how far I'm stepping into that gray area right now. It's
Even that's big news to people, Sophia,
right.
that you go in that for our negotiating process for a public state union to negotiate public funds that are going to be paid out, you're locked in a room behind closed doors and you've signed an NDA that you can't talk about what went on there. I think that kind of encapsulates the whole process right there. This is a state government paying state taxed funds.
Right. I mean, I remember, my first term, and bargaining, it was like I was signing, something with Covered California at 2 o'clock in the morning in a dark, dimly lit, hallway of a hotel. And it's like, are we supposed to be doing this? I was brand new. This was my first time. So I even questioned it because like, this is the state of California. I would have to say my last term, I really started standing up. I didn't sign the non-disclosure act. I didn't believe in it. I felt like people needed to know what actually goes on because, if people really, the members really truly knew what went on, they wouldn't be happy with the bargaining team or the process that a $63 million organization that is negotiating on their behalf is actually doing it like this. There was a time on the last contract I, helped negotiate for Local 1000 at 3:30 in the morning. I stopped the whole process because it was absurd. We were being escorted in the bargaining chairs and being told, sign anything that looks good. Well, at 3:30 in the morning, everything looks good. I kind of, set the papers in front of me and, put the pen down and, put my palms flat down on the table. I couldn't go on and be that deceitful to members any longer. And, it was like, I knew the hits that I was going to take, but I couldn't do it anymore. We all have morals and values that our parents instill and our grandparents instill in us. And at a certain point, there's enough is enough. And, of course, I got pulled out into the hallway and asked what was wrong. And, I was very honest. I let Ms. Walker know that, right now, I don't think that, cutting, 80 people in a room adjacent to us was fair. They had given up their personal lives and their families to be here for 3 months. And now we're going to rush through this process. And anything at 3:30 in the morning looks good. You need to get back in there and stop this. And I kind of just went back in and sat down to see like, okay, what's going to happen? But we were all dismissed for about like 2 weeks. And then we were brought back in, but it's not a fair process. I think it could be more professional. That's why I've talked to my team about, bringing in professionally paid negotiators, right? Not just the bargaining chairs and, Local 1000 president, but actually a professional negotiator where his pay is attached to our contract. And that means that we're going to get the best contract or they're not going to get their full pay. And, I think that we have to negotiate with a, person that will come in and be professional at the negotiation table with the state of California. I'm not discrediting any of the chairs, but I think that we can do better as an organization that represents over 100,000 state employees.
Yeah. What about, do you think we need professional negotiators or do we just maybe need to find better negotiators out of the almost 100,000 people we represent? Because I hear you on the bargaining chairs and the president and such that we've had, but there are plenty of members I meet, on a regular who probably have what it takes to represent us well and to add to the bargaining table, but they're just not, they're not the bargaining chair. They're not the president. They're not a part of the club, so to speak. So do we need those or do we just need to do a better job of taking the reins off of our members and letting our members, really using the power of our membership?
I think to have a professional negotiator on staff during that time, I think it would be important, even for the bargaining chairs to learn, right, the art of negotiation, because some of these bargaining chairs, they're warming a seat. I hate to say that, but they're warming a seat and they take lead from everybody else, right? I think, yes, you're absolutely right, Bays, about utilizing our members more. I think during bargaining, we need to be pulling in members that are really true subject matter experts that can actually describe, their classification and what the issues are for that classification. Not somebody that's just there to make me happy or the president happy, but really, choose those subject matter experts that are going to come and be a true reflection of that classification, that has some knowledge, that has some history, that has, some expertise, that actually can come to the bargaining table and articulate that. I think the professional negotiator, I think, along with legal staff at the, bargaining table, I think it's important, even if it's, the first couple times, right? Because we're so like in a disarray right now, that I think that bringing that professional negotiator in to really hone in on training the bargaining chairs on the art of negotiation, I think it's almost it's relevant at this point.
Yeah, why do you think we haven't used a trained negotiator, paid a lawyer to come in and represent us at the table? Seems like an obvious idea. Is there some internal rule? Is that just the current administration is against that? Do they not want to be as effective as they can be? Why do you think, if you were to speculate?
So I'm not going to speculate. I think it's just been past practice. And, we've always been told, well, who better knows the job than us? And, as state employees, right? But I think, by bringing, a professional negotiator in, that person would just give that much more of that push, right? And that much more like telling the state, like, wow, they mean business, because they're not just bringing the state employees to the table. They're actually bringing a negotiator to the table, right? I'm not saying that I don't have negotiation skills. I'm not saying that the chairs don't, but I think it says something as an organization to be able to present a professional negotiator along with a legal team. When you go and you're negotiating a multi-billion dollar contract, I would want some professionals at the table, not just rank and file that have been elected by, a group of people that have been selected to be in that SBAC. If you want to start peeling back layers of the onion, it gets pretty ugly. And so that's why I think even the first, two contracts, when the change does happen, I think it's adamant that we have a professional negotiator there. This, like, again, teaching that art of negotiation, driving that true negotiation that needs to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned that we're a $64 million organization. That $64 million is divvied up in certain ways. I think a certain portion of it, a good percentage of it, leaves, the local to other organizations. And so the question would be, I guess, of that $64 million, are we allocating our money and our resources properly? And if not, how could we better allocate our resources? Meaning, to give a little more, are we spending the right percentage on organizing and representation that we should be, or should we redirect funds to that? Are we spending enough on the contract negotiations, or does a higher percentage of our budget need to be for that, or, et cetera, et cetera? What does our resource allocation look like in your eyes, and how should it change?
So right now, I can't comment on what the resources even look like, because I'm not part of the board of directors. My understanding is even at the last board of directors, nobody was given the financials. So that's kind of sketchy in itself, right? But when I ran last time, as you know, in the statewide election, I was told by some of the staff that, we, at that point in time, that was 3 years ago, we were about 75% political and only about 25% representing and investing in our members. I think we need a healthier balance. This is a labor movement. We are not a political powerhouse. I believe that, yes, we need to be involved politically, because when we negotiate our contract, we have to lobby, politicians to make sure that that law gets passed. We all know that our contract becomes a state law. So I think politically, we do have to, be involved. Where it's 100% or 80%, I think it's about 80% politics right now. I think that's unhealthy. We need to focus on our members and represent our members on issues, right? Invest in our members. I know that we send a lot of money to the international because of politics. I know that right now our current president is also president to the Central Labor Council, where, she takes money from Local 1000 and funnels it over to Central Labor Council for political reasons. I don't think that, I think that's a conflict of interest, but, where do you go? Who do you talk to, type of thing. But we need to invest more in our members. We need to have our union hall open. We need to, have professional organizations coming in and doing training. I would love to see, gift cards on hand, when we have members that need, groceries or something, be able to give them gift cards, be able to have, a clothes closet for, people that, can't afford that outfit for the next interview, or, whatever they might need. That's the kind of culture I would see, or I envision Local 1000 becoming more of a family where, our members and state workers alike know that they could drop into the union hall and be provided, resources in any way that they might need them. Yeah. I hope I answered that question, because I think I went off a little bit into the weeds.
No, you're good. No, as best as you could, it sounded like, you want to change the way we allocate resources to a certain degree is what I'm hearing you, but you don't know exactly to what a degree, because you don't have the financials in front of you. But it sounds like you think there should be a more member focus and less of a political focus.
Oh yeah, more member focused. I talk about, on, different calls and different meetings that I've been to regarding a rapid response team, right? For representation. Our members have been left high and dry for so long. And I think that, if the issue's pressing, I think no matter where you are, I think you should know that the union's going to show up and be there for you within 2 to 3 hours. If it's pressing and it's, that type of a situation or issue where the union needs to be there, our members and our represented employees need to know that our union's going to be there. So just that alone, yeah. And I would love to bolster up staff. I mean, we've lost so much staff. I just heard of a couple more staff members leaving, this week. And so, hiring quality staff is investing in members.
Right. When it comes to these resources, clearly we get our revenue through member dues. And so in order for us to get more revenue, we either need more members or we need higher union dues. And so we're talking about getting more members. Do you think that union matters should be only accessible to union members? Meaning, do you think that there should be 2 categories of people, members and non-members, or should there be 1 category of people represented? Like, should there be some sort of way we differentiate these people in order to build strength?
But I understand the question, and being in public service, I don't think we can have a closed shop. And I think with the Deals Act, I think that prevents us from being a closed shop where, everybody has to be a member, right? And everybody has to be dues paying. And I think that's why right now it's like member or non-member. To me, it's like I hear stories about how people are being told, if you're not a member, we're not going to represent you. Well, to me, it's like a union. Like if we're a union that represents 100,000 people, regardless if you're a member or not, if my union doesn't show up for me, why would I even think about being a member, right? And I think we in orders to like build membership, I think the union needs to become relevant, and it needs to show value to our members, right? Why would you even want a union that doesn't value you? So I think, our hardest job going into this is to bring, that value back, right? Where, they trust in the union again. Because you know, as well as I know, just being around a few years, like people are losing trust in the labor movement, in the union, in Local 1000 in general, right? It's like you bring that up. I mean, we have work sites that our managers are even telling our members, go call your union, because they know our union is not showing up right now.
Right.
And
like
and that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like a dare, like, yeah, go call your other
Exactly.
Yeah.
go get your older brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sophia, so you talk a lot about what needs to change is more engaging and communication with people who are members or people who are not members, and trying to bring them into the fold. But we all know, as we've all been stewards for many years, that the effectiveness of a union like ours heavily relies on its job stewards, right, to get things done, because we don't have enough money to hire 10,000 staff that's going to do everything we need. So there's a lot of Local 1000 stewards, and there's a lot of variance in how much they work for the union. Maybe, and people have their own separate reasons. Some people get pushed out politically. Some people are brought into the fold politically. Let's say you're president. What is the campaign that you would start in order to effectively utilize all the stewards and bring them into the fold that are under your direction?
I think, first of all, I would need to revamp the union leave program. I would need to also open up the lapse program and, really revamp the lapse program. I think right now it's a very selective process. I think Local 1000, any union knows that your power comes from your frontline stewards, right? That are right there on the job, always interacting with the workers on a daily basis. My team is talking about, we want to, see a job steward in every work site. I think we're talking about, revamping the lapse program so it's not as long, but actually teaming up that steward with a representative so they can be shadowed in their local area within, work sites that, they're going to encounter issues that after they finish that and they're dropped back in the work site, those are issues that they've already been able to deal with the labor rep, right? And be able to understand the process a little bit more. Right now, I think we open up the floodgates. There's a lot of people out there that have been denied access over the last year, access to, becoming a steward, access to even, any type of training. And I think we open those floodgates. We're doing a lot of amazing things on Zoom. We're able to have a board of directors meeting. If we have to run 50 stewards at a time through a Zoom training, I'm okay with that. That's 50 more than we had yesterday, right? But I think first of all, we need to get stewards on deck and trained. I think we need to utilize our state workers and our stewards, right? It's like the union leavers. We hear about the union leavers and all, it's just getting really, really bad out there right now because it's election season. But you hear about all the union leavers. And I think if we split it up, if we actually equitably disperse union leave amongst the stewards, it actually helps the stewards gain that leadership experience where they can, go back and they feel a little bit better about and more confident about representing, on their work site if somebody's not there, right? But, to be able to, maybe bring, stewards out, a month at a time throughout the year or, a week, but have them work in their, district labor council area, right? In their local area. If there's an expert, if there's something going on like a layoff, I would try to like plug a lot of people in just so they learn the layoff process, right?
Mhm.
But using the same old 30 people for 10, 15, 20
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
some of these people, probably don't even want to go back to work now.
So I
If
got a
they,
question for you to
okay,
not to interrupt you, but
no, that's okay.
so we have I agree with you on the whole steward
Yeah.
thing, right? I'm someone who has put together a steward program and offered to get that submitted and was told no. That was a really comprehensive and I think would have been great for our leadership. I'm someone who, at the previous board meeting, had put together a proposal to change our policy file so that every DLC does get a steward, and that we could open these floodgates. But I guess the question for you would be then, if we were to do that, and all of a sudden your president, we're saying we're going to open the floodgates on stewards, we're giving all this union leave out, and then Yvonne Walker's, daughter or relative, right, all of a sudden applies to lapse. Did they get in? Do they get steward leave like you're talking about for everyone? Do they get treated the same, or is there a different treatment because of who they are?
No, there's no, on my behalf, there should not be any different treatment because of who they are, right? That person is a totally different individual. And I'm not going to willy-nilly be giving out union leave, so I just want, that to be understood. I think union leave is a very important tool. And, if it's utilized appropriately, it only strengthens, our leaders, within Local 1000. And I would use it as that tool, not as a favor to somebody. So, somebody wouldn't be there for like 3 years or 10 years or something like that, where they felt like they had to, what goes on, but I wouldn't utilize it as a friends and family rewards program, right? I would use it, as a tool to train and
But would you avoid giving it to people who you think might be, beat you in an election, or who might counter your cause, or who might disrupt the programs you're trying to get going?
I think that's a fair question. I mean, I would probably,
because that's what we see going on right now.
Right. I mean, and that's the kind of culture I started standing up against, because it's truly not fair, because we all belong to one union. And I think we all deserve equitable opportunity to participate in anything that our union has going on. So that's why I'm saying, when you see those same old 30 people, that's not fair distribution. Right. And, would I be afraid? I think, I'm not afraid of training somebody that one day might take my position, because a true leader is looking for their replacement, right? They're looking for that person that they can groom to take their position. They're looking for maybe a few people, right? Me as a leader, it's like, I would want to train an army of leaders, not just 30. Why would I stop at 30 when I have access to over 100,000? Wouldn't I share that equally amongst everybody? Give everybody a shot at the pie. But I would have, my team, also telling me, hey, this is going on. We might need to be a little slower in installing this person, or put them through a little bit more training before we come out on union leave. I don't want to go through like all the negativity. I know that, there's going to be a lot of it probably at first, but, I'm hoping that, it's going to be like a sifter, and, it's going to sift itself out, because, to me, it's not about, all the negativity. I don't want to get caught up in that. I want to focus on the members, because the members have been, put aside for far too long. And it's time that this union gives back to the members or workers, represented as a whole. Every time I say members, I'm thinking 100,000, not just dues paying.
Yeah.
Hopefully a change to the way union leave is administered would be codified in some type of language or document or policy file, because it's always easy to be idealistic and say I wouldn't become political myself. And I do believe you, Sophia, because I know you, but I'm sure that the program is supposed to be doled out in a fair manner, but as currently as it is, it's like wealth inequality in America, right? It's like you have these small little group of stewards among hundreds and hundreds who get 100% of the union leave. So it's good to hear you wanting to change that, because it's a big issue that affects not only the union but the quality of our response on the ground. Because like I said, the stewards are the soldiers who are on the ground for the union. So it's good to hear that.
Exactly, and putting in any changes in policy file, I think that's utmost important for this team moving forward. Is any major changes that we make. I know we talk about ending the stipend, we talk about term limits, revamping the lapse program, union leave. Yes, I think that all needs to be passed and installed in the policy file. That way future generations already have a starting point, right? And we're not going backwards, and we don't have to relive this this 10 years of history that we're living right now. We'll be on a better direction, a better path, and we'll look back and be like, wow, I'm sorry. It saddens me that it took so long to fix it, and now it's fixed. But I think you're absolutely right. By putting in writing, that solidifies future generations that we fought for this, and it was a decision that the board made as a whole, that like this is how to make sure it's equitably dispersed.
Speaking of codifying things into policy or into, we have the policy file, the policy file, and we also have the current precedent, which you're talking about. Hey, what is the intention of this program? What precedent's being set? And both of those things would currently do give, and obviously give the president the power to be not only the head honcho, for lack of a better terms, a lone ranger, a sole actor, so to speak. You don't need anyone else as the president. So if and when you win this presidency, like, why do you have a team? I guess, why did you run with a team? Why do you have a team? Why does that matter when, and how would you use them anyways when you're going to have the sole discretion of everything? You don't need it. You don't need anything but you. So why have a team?
I think a team is important. There's no I in team. And I think, when we, talk about our mission statement, right? Member led, member driven, it doesn't really mean one member. It means members and as a whole, right? And so, to be honest with you, Bays, I have all 4 copies of the policy file. I would like to take and present all 4 copies of, the policy file, to the board of directors, and, kind of move back to where, each vice president has their role and the power to be able to do their job, because, that's why we have a team. One person can't do it alone. We need somebody to focus on organizing and representation. We need somebody to focus on bargaining and getting, that training and those members trained up for bargaining. And, vice president, secretary, treasurer, wouldn't you like to know where, your DLC funds go? Wouldn't you like to know how your union is spending, the money and being open about that? And I think if we're all able to run our shops and come together, I think that's how a union is set up, not for one person, but a union is for the people, right? And so I have all 4 copies, and when they call that all matters of the house to the floor of that one board meeting and kind of rolled in the stipend and all the other changes.
So speaking of a team being important, right? That's what you said. It's unions, everyone. Well, so you have a team of 3 other people, but in your heart, it sounds like you're like me, someone who's union enough to say, about the cause enough to say, hey, well, actually, even everyone I'm running against is on my team. Right. So everyone who's running in this election and everyone who's not is on your team. And so to that end, when the election is over and you win, whether it's, whether all your VPs win or only some of them or whatever, how are you going to reach out to the other teammates, i.e. the people that opposed you or voted for other people, ran against you, and make them part of one team that we need, the local 1000 team? What is your plan to utilize, reach across, whatever, to the rest of the team that, they may not seem like they're your team during the election season?
So you're talking about the thick ballot that we have going on right now, right?
I mean,
all the officers and even DLC level, right?
And their supporters.
Right. And their supporters. And, to me, it's like, I think that's going to be, that's going to be a job, right? I mean, in itself. But I'm willing to take that on because we need to focus again. We as leaders know, what the bad stuff is. And we as leaders know that if we're truly a leader and we're truly about the labor movement, then we're going to have to move forward as a team. I'm not going to condone any of the bullying, any of the shunning, any of the negative stuff that goes on in our union hall today. It's not going to be tolerated in the future if my team wins. That's part of the culture that really needs to be changed. But everybody needs to come to all the leaders and everybody that's involved with the union. We need to come to the consensus that at the end of the day, we are here for the betterment of our members, whether it's the work site or our communities or the labor movement as a whole, right? And we need to stay focused on that. We need to take our personal opinions and our, some of our bad past experiences, and we need to leave them at the door. It's like, okay, yeah, we understand that we probably all, been through, some, landmines and stuff at times, but we also know that change is inevitable. And if there's a new team that wins and pulls it out, that, hey, we succeeded. We can't be afraid of change anymore because we're living the change. And it's like, I'm right now, it's like I get excited because I just feel the energy of change in the air everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're wrapping on time. I don't know if Frank had any other pressing questions. He can interrupt me if he does. But if he doesn't, we definitely want, and this is kind of the portion, why we asked you if there's anything you want to talk about. We just had an hour-long conversation. Clearly, it's impossible to hit on everything. Is there anything that we missed that you're just like, hey, we really have to talk about this before we're done? Anything we didn't get to?
Well, I just, of course, I'm going to, put a plug in there for Unite Local 1000, .org.com, going to our webpage, knowing that, sometimes it is scary, change is scary. But sometimes, at the end of the day, we have to have courage because change is inevitable. And I think looking around and many, many conversations that I'm having around the state, people are wanting change. And, I think it's time, to make that change. It's time to start listening to the members, right? People, tell me, oh, don't worry about the stipend. People aren't talking about the stipend around the state. Some of our members are still talking about that stipend. So to me, it's like, let's end the stipend. If it's still it out to the members.
You just cut out. There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, because somebody was trying to call in. It's like if it's still an issue about the stipend, like, let's send it out to the members where the members have a voice in how they're going to spend their money, because that's a lot of money, to, be spent that we're asking them just to give somebody for, a few extra hours and working a little hard. It's like when we, put our name in to this election, we knew it was a volunteer job. That's why I'm still standing against it. But, if the members, want to bring it up, I think we put it out to the membership at large to see how they want to spend their money. Politics is another issue, but there's so much. I could go on, Bays, about the different things that need to change, the culture alone at Local 1000. I just want people to know that right now change happens, but only you have the power to make change, and that is in your vote. Local 1000 has an election that takes place every 3 years. Do you have time to wait another 3 years? I'm asking you to get your ballot and vote. Sophia Perkins for president, David Jimenez for vice president, secretary, treasurer, Annika Walls for vice president of organizing and representation, and Kevin Manager for bargaining, vice president of bargaining. We need change all across the state of California. We can become that strong union that negotiates a strong contract that has no takeaways during its cycle. Thank you, Bays, for inviting me. Thank you, Frank, for inviting me onto your show tonight.
Thank you, Sophia. And it's been really great having you. We hope to get as many candidates as we can on the show. So if you want to come on Shop Talk, just email us at talkshop1000@gmail.com.